Erev Tov again. This is the regular Davidovich Shalom Shir, Tuesday nights. And we're going to be talking about this week's Parsha, which is Parsha's Balak. And Balak, you recall, was the newly appointed king of Moab. And he was frightened about Bnei Israel, and he understood that he would not be able to overcome Bnei Israel with military might. He understood that he could not defeat them physically because they had defeated the greatest army in the world, the Egyptians and others. So he thought that the only way to possibly defeat them was to hire a sorcerer. So he hired the great sorcerer Balaam to curse them. And there's a whole story about Balaam trying to do his best to curse them, and God puts all kinds of obstacles in his way, including his donkey that every time he tried to go a little bit further, the donkey would sit down or bruise his leg against the wall or go off the path. And Balaam was so did not recognize what's going on, that when the donkey stopped for the last time and Balaam looked in front of him, and there's an angel with a fiery sword standing in front of him. So what is he? So he starts beating his donkey. He says, "What are you doing to me? Why did you stop?" He doesn't realize the danger ahead. The donkey realizes the danger ahead. Sometimes it takes a donkey to realize the dangers that are in front of us. But that's not what I'm talking about tonight. That's just a brief introduction. We also know that the curses of Balaam that he wanted to make were all turned into blessings. And they remained blessings for a while, but then they all turned back into curses except for two. And the two that didn't go back into curses were the blessing of having a Beit HaMedrash and a Beit Knesset. So let's see what the Davidovich Shalom has to say about this. The title of this is Ami, my people. This is from the Haftorah, this week's Haftorah. Ami Zocharno Ma Yoitz Balak Melech Moab. My people, remember what Balak, the king of Moab, advised. And then the pasuk is talking about how Balaam was trying to remind Hashem of the Chet HaEgel, of the sin of the golden calf. And the pasuk says he turned towards the desert, meaning he turned towards where the Egel Azov was, to remind Hashem, these people are not worthy of saving. Let me curse them. And nonetheless, the pasuk ends, you shall know the righteousness of Hashem. Hashem's righteousness, even though we had sinned with the golden calf, Hashem is not going to let us down. So let's see what this says. The Haftorah, Parshas Hashvuah. Ami Zachar Nam Mayoetz Balak Balak Moab Ana also Balaam answer him, Ben Beor, the son of Beor. Laman das Sidkos Hashem, you shall know the righteousness of Hashem. Zohar Kodesh says, Lo hav yomin min yoma dasbori amod istri chachil mehevi Kodesh Baruch Hu b'hedi ad Yisrael. There was no time when Bnei Israel needed Hashem's protection more. Kahu Zimna, than this time the Balaam she yotzil is Saneim Israel. She had seen this name Israel. What that Balaam came to spew his hatred through these curses on Bnei Israel. It seems, it appears, the Haisa Oz Eis Tzara Hakasha. This was the most difficult time, Yoter, more difficult the Israel Me'olam than anything that had happened in the world. Yoter Me'eit Hayosem Mitzrayim Valayam. More difficult than the situation Bnei Israel faced when they were in Egypt and on the sea, or even after the hate, the sin of the golden calf. Yesh lebar b'chlos b'nyan b'kashas Balak. Let's understand the request of Balak. He says, Lecha na, please, let me go. Arali es ha'omazeh, let me curse this people. What's the aspect of this curse and this blessing? We should understand this. We know when Balaam understood that all the time that Bnei Yisrael were cleaving to Hashem, were connected to Hashem, there is no people in the world that could have any power over them. A person could not damage them. It says, B'Shem HaRambam, Moy Nevachim, it says, Kasher Yehudi Davuk Hashem Yisborach. When a Jew is cleaving to Hashem, Ein Shum Dinim Yecholim Lishlot Alav. There's no judgments, no bad judgments that could come upon him. V'chol Hamakarim, all the things that happen to Pogoyim, Rayim, and the things that are bad, Afilu Tzadikim, V'chasidim, even the righteousness and the pious people, they only happen when they've stopped in their devekus of Hashem. Even a momentary stoppage is enough to let something happen. The famous story is David HaMelech was told that he was going to die when he's 70 years old, that he would die on a Shabbos. And he decided that the only way he could keep the Malach HaMavos, the angel of death, from was to keep studying constantly the full 24 hours of Shabbos, so that he would defeat the angel of death. And of course, this was the Devekus B'Hashem. What happened? He heard there's different versions of it, but he heard a rustling of something outside. He got up to see what happened, and boom, he fell down the stairs and died. That momentary lapse of the Devekus in Hashem is what did it. This is the aspect of a blessing and a curse. Bracha, what is the real blessing? He had Vekus B'Hashem. That's the connection that we have, the cleaving that we have with Hashem. She'oz lo yona kara. Nothing can happen bad to you. Things that happen that you might normally think were bad, if you have Devekus in Hashem, you will understand that's not bad at all. But Kalala, and what is the worst curse? Kasher Adam Menatek Minad Vekus. When a person is disconnected from this connection with God, that's the worst curse you can have, to feel disconnected from God. Balaam knew this. He knew, Balaam, it is said, had spiritual powers, though they were evil, that were equal to Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a Navi, but instead of using his prophecy for good, he used it for bad. So he knew what was going on upstairs. It says right here, he was like Moshe Rabbeinu. The holy books tell us Moshe was the source of knowledge of all Klal Yisrael. And this knowledge was the devekus, the connection with God. And the man shall know. Balaam was the opposite of this. The klipa, the negative knowledge. The negative knowledge where he wanted to sever the connection between Ribbon Shalom and Klal Yisrael. Balkeid Hutzrach Balak Lishloach after Balaam. Therefore, Balak needed to send after Balaam. After Balak Hoya Mechashiv Gadol Yoter Mi Balaam. It's strange, but apparently Balak was a greater sorcerer than Balaam. Shomer Chazal, as Chazal teaches, the Woki B'Hashem Yisborach Ein Kol Umav Loshin Yochol Mivkoa B'Hem Bein Megashmiot Bein Meruchniot. He understood that nobody could interfere with Bnei Israel, could hurt them, either physically or spiritually, if there was devekus within Hashem, connection, cleaving to Hashem. Bein Eitza Kenegdam, and there was no advice against them. Rak Aidei Shiyanate Osam Nekadosh Baruch Hu. The only advice was to do something to cause them to separate, to sever the cord between themselves and God. Therefore, he needed the negative spiritual force of Balaam, Shudas the Klipa, because he had knowledge of all the negative spiritual forces. Because God forbid, he was able to, if he wanted, to be able to cause a separation of Bnei Israel from their connection to God. The Holy Ari said, Bilam Nishmas Lavan Harami. Bilam was the neshama of Lavan Harami. Haggadah, what do we say about Lavan? Hanomrim we say, Lavan Bikesh Lakor Sakol. And Lavan wanted to destroy it all. Shemar Arami Obed Avi. It says, the Aramean, being Lavan, destroyed my father. Now, he didn't actually destroy him. He wanted to. And when a person like if a Jew has a negative thought of doing something, God doesn't count it. If a Jew has a thought to do a mitzvah, God counts it as a mitzvah. A non-Jew, unfortunately, has a thought to do a mitzvah, God doesn't count it until he does it. And if he has negative thought to do something wrong, it's counted as if he did it. So, I know lahavid Yisrael as harageshet who yikra'edi of ato Hashem Yisborach hu aviyam. He wanted to destroy Israel from the feeling that their father was the Holy One, blessed be he. Excuse me. And through that, he was able to destroy it all. That was his desire. Should not come in Hashem's brought to separate them from God. This was also the intent of Balaam. The katreg alehem lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be an evil prosecutor against them before God, by trying to have God remember the egel hazahav, the sin of the calf, to then let God maybe take his protection away. So he was trying to do that. Because he understood if he could get God to do that, then there would be no future in Bnei Israel. This is the purpose of the blessings of Balaam. Kishomer Chazal tell us, from the blessings of this wicked person, we understand what was in his heart to curse them. All of them had to do with the connection of Bnei Israel and God. As he said, Lo hibit avon b'Yaakov, lo armo b'Yisrael. I didn't see anything wrong. I saw nothing, no defect in the children of Israel. Hashem alakavimo. God they are God's people. Perus, what does that mean? Shiratz lahaskir Chatayim shel Yisrael lifnei Hashem. Balaam wanted to remember all of the sins that were done by Bnei Yisrael, bring those to God, before God. In order to separate them from God. And instead of that, instead of being able to say that kind of a curse, what came out of his mouth was the bracha, the blessing. Lo hi be'elavu miyalkov. I see nothing wrong with them. Lo ramu Yisrael. They haven't done anything wrong. Hashem Elokeinu imo. God is with them. So Hashem Yisborach nimtza tamidim Yehudi. God is always found with the Jew. Well, all of Elu Menachik Chas v'Shalom HaKesher Yehudi. Chas v'Shalom, God forbid, the kesher, the strong bond between the children of Israel and God is never cut apart. V'chema dekosev achikach, and that's what is written afterwards. It's written in the Parsha. It says, it's written in the Haftorah. Vayashes el midbar panav. He turned towards the desert. What does that mean? In Yonam Targomo, as the Targum says, V'shavi l'kabil agala Avodah Yisrael b'midbar afui. And he that he wanted to bring them. He wanted to remind them of the calf. He wanted to rise up the awareness of the sin of the golden calf. The Torah itself refers to the sin of the golden calf as a great sin. And he thought that would certainly be able to sever the connection between Bnei Israel and Hashem. And instead of that, from his mouth came blessings that we say every day in the davening. Matovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkarosecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Yisrael. Kedosh's Chazal, and Chazal say, what does that mean? What are these tents and the dwelling places? So they say, She'ilu bate knisyos bate midrashos. These are the shuls and the study halls. We should understand what this, what the cause of Tchila, as it said in the beginning, Vayar Yisrael shochi lishvatav vatiyalav ruach Hashem. He saw that Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, were dwelling in peace in their tribes, and they had the ruach Hashem with them, the Spirit of God upon them. Just as I said it before we started this year, he saw Bnei Israel together. They were together. The concept of togetherness, shochei lishvatav, dwelling in peace in their tents, in their tribes. How? Just like they were at Har Sinai, before Har Sinai, belev echad, ish echad, like one heart, one person. Umimela, therefore, there's no way that he could sever that connection from God. And we understand that, as the tzaddikim tell us, that the way to reach a love of God is through a love of Bnei Yisrael. So Yehudim ohavim zelazeh, a Jew has to love one another. As the sentence says, you have to re'acha kamocha, ani Hashem. You should love your neighbor as yourself. I am God. As Rabbi Akiva said, Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. You have to re'acha kamocha. Zeh klal gadol b'Torah. What's klal gadol? It means it's all encompassing. It encompasses the entire Torah. It's not just the saying that you can pick out. Here's one command. You have to re'acha kamocha. Rabbi Akiva says this encompasses everything. Klal gadol. It's a general concept that a Jew has to observe. When Bnei Yisrael are in achdut, are togetherness and love, achiba and affection, zelazah, one for the other, magim, b'ahavat Hashem. They come to a level of loving God. So you want to reach a level of loving God? Love your fellow man. This is the power that binds a Jew to God. But Tshuva, Yoshev al Midbar, Panav, the reason, the answer is to Vayeshet el, the reason they turned to the desert, Vayar Yisrael Shochel Ishvatav, instead of wanting to see and bring about the apparition of the golden calf and bring that to everybody's memory, he saw the Bnei Israel dwelling in peace. Shekivan Shiraz Sahava Gadola Shuri Beinehem, since he saw the great love that was connected, that was running through and through them, he saw that because of this, they had this great connection with Hashem. The Efshar freedom. It was impossible then, since they had this connection with Hashem, impossible to separate them from Hashem. Even the sin of the golden calf, not come because Hashem. Even that great sin wasn't enough to separate Bnei Yisrael from this connection to God. That's what he says. Yisrael. A goodly are your tents, O Israel, your dwelling places, O Israel. Kishomer Chazal, Shabikesh Leklalam, he wanted to curse them. What kind of a curse did he want? He wanted to curse them, but there should not be any more Bati Knesses, not be any more shuls, not be any study halls in Israel. The Tachazot, and instead of this, Yotzmi Piva Brocha Matov Olech Yaakov Chulu. Instead of that, the blessing Matov Olecha came out of his mouth. Ilu Bote Knessiosus Bot Midrashos, referring to the Bote Knesset, the shuls and the study halls. Shenyanam hu Mashi Yisrael is Kashrim Bohem Misachtim Yachad. These are places where Jews get together and have a kesher with one another and have unity together. In the shul, they together work on avodas Hashem, on serving God through tefillah. As we say, ma avodas halev. What is the service of the heart? Zet tefillah. It's prayer. So that's what they did in the shul. But what the Roshos that in the shul, in the study halls, together they studied Torah. Shekoach HaTorah me'achad es Yisrael. The power of the Torah unifies Bnei Yisrael. Liot b'leiv echad ish echad. To be like they were at Sinai, as one heart, one person. And this brought the connection of Bnei Yisrael to God. Was Ra Balaam then saw Ein lo shum etzer neged Yisrael. There's nothing he could do. He had no other advice they could do to conquer Israel. Ki gam achar chatoim hachamorim biyoter. Even after these great sins, adayin yesh lahem eser etzer shall call a mechuber lataher taher. They had, the Jewish people still had the understanding that whoever wants to connect themselves to that which is pure will become pure. When the Jews come together as one, even the person who is only for himself and very humble, whoever is connected with everybody else to try to become pure, tahar, becomes pure. But by this power, with this power, he becomes connected to Hashem. Chazal, and Chazal say further. Everything that Balaam had in his heart to curse the children of Israel, they turn into a bracha, And unfortunately, Chazar Liklala, they turned into curses ultimately. Chutz, except the Bati Kniyasios with Bati Virashos, except for his blessing, Matova, referring to the shuls and the study halls. When you should dafka baruchazun is kaimas lo chazar l'kala. Why is it that everything else turned back into a bracha, but not these two things? Yeshlam al pi madamer memora sabakosh mislonim, as his holy grandfather of Slonim said, Kimidas hadas shehi advekus b'Hashem, the quality of knowledge that is connectedness to Hashem, kolelas mocha v'liba gam yachad, combines both the intellect and the heart together. Shemidas hadas, the concept of das, of knowledge, he hamachrat mechachma mocha uvina liba. It derives from the wisdom of the mind and the understanding of the heart. Shema'achdas midos hamoach midos halev. It means by connecting your intellect with your heart. That is not to be governed only by your intellect and not to be governed only by your emotions, by your heart. You have to have them together, working together. These are the two parts that a Jew can walk on. By walking on these two things, by putting together the intellect and the lave, that's how you can reach this midas hadas of being connected with Hashem. And the way to accomplish this is through the study of Torah and prayer. The Torah purifies the mind of a Jew. His munah, his das, and his religious outlook. All of that comes about from Torah. With tefillah, and tefillah, prayer, mataras levi, purifies the heart of the Jew. Shlo lo chukos, so he shouldn't have any evil desires. But all of your desires, all of your longings are for Hashem. Bechinas lecha Hashem techukosi, to you Hashem I long. As it says, my heart, my heart is flowing like water with my love for you. By purifying your heart and your intellect, you're able to reach this level where you have this connection with God. This is what it means. The shuls and the study halls. Shuls are a place of tefillah. And study hall is a place of Torah. Through both of them, through both of them together, Torah and tefillah, the heart of the Jew will be purified to have a connection with Hashem. I'm sorry. So Balaam wanted to defile the das of Klal Yisrael. He wanted to do the opposite. He wanted to nullify, to abolish the shuls and the Torah. And this has happened so many times in history when those who have ruled over us, be it the Romans or others, just happened. Right. Amy reminds me, I don't have to go back in history. It just happened in our own time in this last number of months when they closed the shuls of Beit Knesset around the world, including in Israel, or they tried to anyway. And that's what our enemies have tried to do. Uh, and that's what Balaam wanted. Balkain, therefore, Brucha Matovu Alech Yaakov, this blessing of how goodly are your tents, Yaakov, Niskaima Velo Chazar L'Klala, they lasted and they didn't return to a curse. Ki Am Yisrael Muchrach L'Tzorech Ki Yomu Shoelo Shtei Hanyanim Hamoch Valev Shei Midas Haras. But Israel, children of Israel, need these two aspects to be a total Jew, to be connected with God, meaning the combination of the mind and the heart. Zoe Haneshama Shel Klal Yisrael. This connection of the intellect and the heart is the neshama, the soul of the people of Israel. She'yefshar levater aleh, and you can't, excuse me, you can't do away with it. Don't give up on it. Al pizeh. Because of this, Yeshlomer the Chasam B'tchilas HaParsha says at the beginning of the Parsha, Shamar Kadosh Baruch Hu Balaam, Hashem said to Balaam, Mi hanashim ha'elemach. Who are these people with you? Referring to the people that Moab sent to get him to come. Yomer Balaam el Hashem Balak ben Sipor Melech Moab shalach elai hine ha'am hayotzim Mitzrayim yichas etzein haaretz ata l'chana kavali osa. He said these people were sent by the king of Moab to tell me this people that came out of Egypt, they're covering up the whole land. They're eating up the land. They're taking too much. Therefore, please curse them for me. Familiar statement, right? That the Jews are taking everything. Shelichora tamua shemavate aleim al am bilta yodea. It's strange. What was he? He was thinking that this is a person without knowledge. This is without knowledge of God. This is the people that came out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt. The whole world saw. The whole world heard all of the nisim and the flows, the miracles, and the wonders. It wasn't a secret thing. God didn't take them out in secret. Didn't steal them out. They came out with a high hand. The whole world saw. The whole world saw what happened at not only the Yetzias Mitzrayim, but the Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea. Well, the cause of it, as the pasuk says, "Shamu Amir Gazum, Chil Achaz Yoshvei Peleshes." The people around the world heard and were frightened about what Hashem had done. Shekulam Roas Hagiluim Hagadolim, all of them saw the great revelations of Havas Kadosh Baruch Hu Israel. All of them saw the great revelations that God had between Himself and the people of Israel. How can the damaging, destructive language like this have any effect on them? That Balaam asked Hashem, said, these aren't the same people that came out of Egypt. Okay, those were good people, and they were worthy of the miracles, but the Oz, they were fine people. They were kosher. They were fitting to have these miracles. But now these people, these people, they've continued to sin, and they've separated themselves from God. Hashem answered him, "Lo Torah, do not curse this people, ki baruch hu, because they are blessed. Harihu also shiyotzim Mitzrayim. These are the same people that came out of Egypt. The Kabbalah HaTorah received the Torah. And they were merited. They merited to receive these great revelations. And now they are blessed." And he continues, V'hine Inyan HaShabbos. Lo nizkar klal b'berchosav shel Balaam. Balaam didn't mention the aspect of Shabbos in any of his blessings. Why? Because he understood the reason that all of the powers of negativity, the evil powers in the world, they're they're powerless to do their evil on Shabbos. Komer Hazor Kodesh, as we say in the Zohar, and we say this in uh, the Tefillah on Friday night. Gam Nodinin. We say that in that Tefillah. We say Kol Shutui Rogzin, all messengers of evil, Moray Dedina, Kula Arkivisabri, know that everyone wants to bring bad judgment on the Jews. They're gone, they leave us. This was Shemar Kodesh, says Shabbos Kodesh, Mofia, Gilui Ha'or, Gibel Spheros Rishonos. The Shabbos brings the revelation of light in the first three levels of the Sphirot, which I won't talk about. From this light, all of the power of the negative powers run away. And it will be fulfilled as the pasuk says, they will come through caves and tunnels in the dirt. They'll dig through dirt because of the fear of God. If a goy keeps Shabbos, he's worthy of the death penalty. Because the mitzvah is given only to a Jew, and the non-Jews don't know that because they keep their Shabbos on a different day. The negative offense, the negative powers, and the powers of evil, they have no power over Shabbos. This is what we say in Gemara Shabbos. Whoever observes Shabbos according to the halacha, according to the laws, how it should be observed, even if he was an idol worshiper like the generation of Enosh, he's forgiven. No, I'm sorry, Shabbat Azorah. Shabbat Azorah, who shoras haklipa. Idol worship is the root of negative, bad forces in the world. But if you keep Shabbos according to halacha, then the powers of evil have no power over you. The high time for this reason, Balaam could not mention Shabbos. He wanted to bring negative things about the Jewish people, about the children of Israel, in every way that he could, but he couldn't mention Shabbos. Why? Because he understood Ki al Shabbos ein lekochos sitra ocha klipa kol shlita. The powers of negativity, the power of cursing, the bad powers in the world have no power over the Jew who keeps Shabbos. Ad kan. So we learn a number of things from here. We learn, first of all, how important it is to have a Bati Knesset, and Bati Midrashot. We learn how the work that is done in a Bati Knesset, the Beit Knesset, is Avodat Hashem, Avodat Halev, Tefillah. And we shouldn't confuse a Beit Knesset for a social hall. We shouldn't think that a Beit Knesset is a place where we can just come and schmooze with people. Schmooze outside, don't schmooze inside the Beit Knesset. Beit Knesset is a place for tefillah. And we learn the importance of Torah. Torah is what brings you light. And you're studying Torah to whatever extent you can, that will light up your world. And then finally we learn the power from the bracha of Matovu Alech Yaakov. The other interpretation of that is that Balaam saw that the way people were living was that they weren't interfering with one another's life. They were living together, but not invading everybody else's privacy. The windows of one house did not look upon the window of another house or another tent. So everybody had their privacy, and everybody had the achdus, as it says. So those are all keys that we can work on to improve our connection to God. And never fear that no matter what you do, your connection to God will be severed. Because as Meir said, and I've said it many, many times, bein kach nikro bani. No matter what we do, we're called the children of God. Thank you all for listening. I'll take any questions that anybody has or comments.
Thank you, Nate.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay.
Thank you, Nate.
Oh, you're welcome. Welcome back, Neil. We miss you.
Thank you. I'm here.
Good. Good to see you.
We're moving over near you.
Oh, where? I heard that.
So we're in the midst of a lot of upheaval, but we're going to be